Paris Climate Agreement finally gets signed, as we ask for other countries go to their parliaments, congresses, and take steps that are, at least in the short term, potentially against their economic best interests, when one of the two candidates for president running for office now has said that he would abandon that agreement. How do you have that conversation with another country?
Well, it's harder when you have a candidate running for president who obviously is espousing a different point of view. It makes it harder. It creates a delay in some countries. People will say, well, let's wait and see what the outcome of the election is before we make a decision. Fortunately, most countries have leaders who actually understand science. And so the fact is that we now already this year have so many countries that have signed up to the agreement that we're over the 55 countries and we're over the 55% of emissions represented by those countries. So this agreement is going to come into force in the beginning of November. And that is a monumental accomplishment. It's huge, because everybody in the marketplace now understands with clarity that this agreement is going to be in force. And that means that is the path the world is setting out on for the future production of energy for our nation, for all of our nations, which it's already creating a revolution in terms of energy production. I met this morning with a group of energy CEOs here in the Valley, all of whom are engaged in putting out renewable, sustainable, alternative energy. Particular solar was represented, among others, wind was represented. And they're trying to do this in Africa. They're trying to do distributive power and get it out into communities that have no electricity, which is critical, by the way, to really dealing with the crisis of terrorism. I mean, you've got to deal with poverty. You've got to deal with these young people who have no future. And if you don't have electricity in a country, it's hard to provide jobs, hard to educate people and so forth. So people here in America need to see the connection of what we choose to do in terms of energy or other kinds of things with respect to the opportunities that are available to people in other countries. But in terms of energy policy now, the fact is it is absolutely uncontested by any reasonable standard of accounting that if you make a choice for alternative renewable energy, it is not, in fact, more expensive in the long run. Because if you're doing coal-fired power plant, for instance, which California doesn't do now, but in the East it's still an issue, your costs are going to be much greater in the long run because you're going to have health concerns, you're going to have CO2 emission, acidification of the ocean, you're going to have problems with the quality of air, you're going to have environmentally induced asthma for kids, which costs billions every year. I mean, there are all kinds of costs to fossil fuel burning that do not get accounted for in the context of normal business accounting, and it doesn't make sense. So when they tell you, well, wow, we got to do coal because coal's only 3 cents a kilowatt hour, it's not true. Coal ultimately is much more expensive than the now 3 cents of solar, by the way. There are contracts for solar being let for about 2.99 cents or 3 cents a kilowatt hour. So as the accounting changes, the entire marketplace is going to change. And last year, we had a record $358 billion spent, invested in energy, in the energy sector, new energy, alternative energy, renewable energy, gas, gasification, so forth. So we're on a different course here, and I'm very confident that we've created a construct which could help solve the problem if people continue down that path. If they don't, we're in trouble.